Hi, welcome back to Sassy Stitchery, Learning Stitches. And if you're keeping up with us, we are working through the Learning Stitches book from Jeanette Douglas Designs. And I will give you a quick peek at the title of that book. So Learning Stitches Sampler from Jeanette Douglas Designs, and we're doing all of those little techniques. This is lesson 11, and we have been working through it on some banding. And these are the practice stitches, and then at the end I do a set of just fun stitches. And so I hope that if you haven't done this with us, and this is the first video you're dropping into, you'll go back and watch the intro and video 1 and see if it's something you want to join in. I'm doing it on banding, but you can also do it on a strip. You do have to do it on linen or a Lagana or a Joblin so that you have threads that you can count, because all of these stitches are counted specialty stitches. And we are again on lesson number 11. So welcome back. I'm going to read you a little bit out of Jeanette Douglas's book. You will have to have the pattern book to follow along. This particular stitch, number 11, is on page 28 and 29. And it's called a woven ribbon stitch. And it's a really beautiful stitch. So I'll kind of read to you a little bit about what Jeanette has to say. This popular pattern in some books is called woven ribbons or the Guadalupe stitch, and elsewhere it's just in the medieval section of flat stitches in the book, and is most likely adapted from the 14th or 15th century. It consists of a diagonal oblong and an interlocked ribbon design that is usually worked in 2 colors. With hers, she did a very subtle color change. We are going to do 2 very different colors so that you can see it in our practice stitch. And then if you want to do something different with your threads, you will have the visual of how to do that. She also mentions that it looks a lot like the stitch that you did in stitch 9. It mimics that, but it's a very different stitch. So I hope you have fun with it. Definitely take a look at the graph, take a look at the picture of block 11, really beautiful. And let's get hooped up and threaded up and get started. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm going to start with an away knot, waist away knot, and we may stitch over it a little bit, but I want to put it down there in the corner. Okay, so I leave 4 threads between mine. I'm not sure what you're doing with yours, but I'm going to come down 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to come over, stay in the same horizontal row, and find my 1 thread margin. Okay, so that should be the margin. And the first stitch covers 4 threads. Now, if you're looking at your chart on page 29, she also calls this the Guadalupe stitch. You'll notice that there aren't any numbers on the chart, so you're just going to have to count with me. And that's okay, because we know how to do that. We've been doing that for a while. So we want to count down 5 threads, actually, on this first one, from where we're going to end right here, so that we have that margin. Because if you'll notice, the first stitch in the lighter gray covers 4 threads, but then the next one jumps up a thread. So let's come down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so remember what we did. We left our margin, whatever your margin is. Mine was 4 threads. Count that down. Come over and find your 1 thread margin over here, whatever you're using, and then count down the number of threads that you need to make sure that you get the highest point of this set of stitches to still be your margin 4 threads away. So ours for this one, if we follow the pattern, was going to be 5. Okay, so let's start 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to be doing, okay, so this is just a little compensating stitch. So we're going to do this first, and then we'll jump down and we'll do the next one going up. Okay, so that covered 4 threads. Then the next one comes up a thread, and it covers 4 threads. And most of these do, except for the compensating stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we started off with a compensating stitch here because it makes our counting a whole lot easier. and it keeps us with the pattern. So the next one, we're just going to be ending along that horizontal row. So it's just going to come up 1 thread and go over 3. And the next one comes up 1 thread from where you started, and it goes over 2 threads. So that was a little compensating start. Okay? So we're good with that. Now, you could thread up with your other thread and do it coming down, or we can drop down. Okay, so this stitch, it is called the woven ribbon for a reason, because they weave in and out of each other. So you're just going to have to do some counting. So from this, I'm going to drop down and stay with the same color and do another ribbon of this color. So the next stitch underneath this one is also over 4. So I'm going to count down 4 from that. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then there's 2 empty threads. 1, 2, and then the next stitch covers 4. So I'm going to count down 4 so I can get to the beginning of that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now what did I do? I counted down 4 threads for the other color of the stitch that's going to bump up against this. 1, 2, 3, 4. I counted down 2 threads for the 2 empty threads. 1, 2, that's 6. And then I counted down 4 more threads because that's where I need this one to start. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I think we'll be okay there. So let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that covers 4 threads. The next one starts 1 thread up and it covers 4 threads. So 1, 2, 3, 4. The next one starts 1 thread up and covers 4 threads. You can count that, or you can just end 1 thread up from where the other one ended. And the next one does the same. So how many of those do we have like that? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 threads that do that stair step. So that's 4. Let's do 3 more. So we come up a thread, we go over 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we go down. That's 5. We're going to do 2 more. Come up a thread, start, you end it, up a thread. That's 6. This should be 7. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then sink that one down. That's 7. Okay? Now, the next thread comes up 1 thread, but it only goes over 2. So it starts 1 thread up, but it only covers 2 because this is where the intersection is of the woven. Okay, so it's a little compensating stitch. Now this is where you have to be careful, because the other color is going to come through here coming down this way. So it's going to be coming down like this. And this ribbon technically is going underneath and coming back up. So you have to count over. I think the easiest way to do this is to count over 2 naked threads to the right from where you ended that last little 2 thread stitch. 1, 2. So you're going to skip 2 threads, and then you're going to count up 1, 2, and start there. Now that should put you 1 thread above the end of your tallest stitch, and it does. Okay, so what did I do? From where this stitch ended, I counted over 1, 2 naked threads, and then up 1, 2 naked threads, and that's where I started. And that starting point should be 1 naked thread above the highest ending point of that stitch, and it is. Now this one also just covers 2 threads, because remember, this is where your other color is going to weave down through. Okay? So now the next one is going to be a full 4 thread coverage. So you want to come down 1 thread from where that started. And now this one covers 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the next one covers 4 threads. So you start up 1 and you come up 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if you notice, you are at the top of your boundary. So the rest of the stitches here are going to be compensating, just like that first little group that we started. So the next one starts up 1 thread. I hope you guys keep this book because it's a really good reference book, and it covers 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then the next one starts up 1 thread and it covers 2. 1, 2, and that's your compensating. So, oh, you got 1 more. on this one. Oh, we had one more on the other one and we missed it. I'll have to go back and get that. Okay, so we need to cover that one thread right there. Okay, and we missed it over here, so don't miss it when you do it. If you do, you can run back underneath and come over here and get it. I missed that last one. Okay, so now we have all our compensating stitches in, going up through there. Okay, so now we've got a choice. We could come over here and count down again and do the same color going up, or we can switch to our other color. So why don't we stay with this color, since this is what we've been doing. Let's run underneath on the back or in the thread, either way, whatever you want to do, because this is just practice. And then we're going to count down and start over here again and go back up that same way. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So now we have to figure out where to start. And if you are looking at the pattern that we've got with Jeanette, you can see that she comes down the 4 threads, skips the 2 threads, and then another 4 threads. So it's exactly what we did before. So 1, 2, 3, 4, because that is the 4 thread count of the other color. Then 2 naked threads, and then 4 threads for where this stitch should start. Now, what you may want to do is alternate colors to do this. It's probably easier that way. I don't know. I don't know which way it would be easier, but this is how we're going for this. And you can kind of think about it as you do it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that should leave me 6 naked threads before I get to the next one. Let's count. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It does. Okay, so the next one also covers 4. So you come up 1 thread and you cover 4, which means you go down 1 thread above it. And you do the same thing. Let's see how many of these we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Makes sense because that's our pattern we had before. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you don't really have to count all these once you've got the first one in. You can just start 1 thread up and end 1 thread above until you get 7 of those put in. I think if you were doing this on a larger area, you would probably alternate colors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Seven. And then you've got the little compensating stitch. So you come up 1 thread and you go over 2 with that one. That's your little compensating stitch. Okay, and then before we skipped 2 threads coming this way to the right, and we came up 2 threads, which actually puts you directly underneath that little compensating stitch from above. So you know you're right, and you've got 1 naked thread between the top of this last long stitch and where you are. And this stitch covers 2 threads. Okay? And then you've got 7 more long stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you come down 1 thread below this guy, this compensating stitch, and you cover 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you should come up a thread and then end up a thread. You can count them if you want, but you should have 7 of these long stitches here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Every once in a while it's good to count and make sure you're still doing what we started out with. And remember, these stitches are really adaptable, so if you want to play and do something different, you certainly can. All right, let's see where we are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this will be 7. Okay, and then we have another compensating stitch. So we come up 1 thread and we go over 2. Then we count to the right 2 naked threads here, and then up 2. 1, 2, and that's where we start. And again, that should leave us one naked thread between this last tall one, and where we're starting here. That one covers 2. And then you pick up again with your long stitches. You come down 1 thread underneath and you cover 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you do 2 of those, and then you're back to compensating stitches. Cover 4 with that one. Now you're back to compensating. So you're going to start up a thread, but you're going to end on this same horizontal row going across. So the first one covers 3. The next one covers 2. And the last one covers 1. Okay. Now I'm going to end this thread. I'm going to come and put through the woven, the other color. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. I have threaded up with the green, so it's going to be kind of Christmassy looking. But I want you to be able to see where we are. So I'm actually going to start underneath this little compensating stitch here, because this is a pretty good long run. And I'm going to come down through here with this woven thread. I have put a waist away knot over here. You can see it there. And so I'm going to start with the compensating stitch. So that's going to be, 2 threads underneath that one. And we're going the other direction this time too. We're going down. I mean, we're still going bottom to top. We're going to be working down the linen. So I'll come down a thread and I cover 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, which is at the top edge of my little area. And then I come down a thread, which bumps me into this one. They share that hole. So in this case, I am coming up through a hole that already has a thread in it. So be careful that you don't snag. And then I cover 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I do the same thing until I have 7 of those coming down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So, which means I'm sharing this hole again. So you start down 1 thread and you end down 1 thread from your last stitch. I think this is really beautiful done in threads that are just a shade different, like Jeanette did. I think it's also pretty like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so you can see how those compensating stitches fall into place with this as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. Shares a hole there. There's another one of those little knots. One, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now let's see how many we've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which makes sense because we've run out of room. And so now we have another little 2 thread compensating stitch. So it starts at the top of the next red one and it covers 2 threads. 1, 2. So that it still ends 1 thread down. So you stay in that same decreasing pattern there. Let's look at that for a minute. So you can kind of see where our compensating stitch joined up here. We joined a compensating stitch here and here. And then we did a little compensating stitch of our own right here. We'll do another one over here and then we'll keep coming down. And so that's what makes the weave. And that's what makes it really pretty. Okay. So now we have to, you've got your 2 thread here. You're basically going to come over here. Going to skip 1 red thread, and then the next one is where you're going to do your compensating stitch. So you come down 2 threads underneath the next one. So you're going to skip this one. You did your compensating stitch here. You're skipping this one, and on the next one, you're going to count down 2 threads below it and come into it there. Okay? And then you come down here. You come down 1 thread and you cover 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so you do 7 of those where they cover 4 threads, and then you're at another intersection. So you start down one, you end down one. I think that covered 4. Let's count it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it just looks weird because I pulled it a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4. Come down one thread. 1, 2, 3, 4. Down one thread. 1, 2, 3, 4. Down one thread. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see where we are. One, two, oh, we don't want to count the compensating stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we need one more. 7. Okay? Okay, now if you're following the pattern, you'll see that you've got a little compensating stitch there. So you want to end 2 threads down, and it covers 2 threads. 1 thread down from where the last one did, and it covers 2 threads. So that's your next little compensating stitch. And that kind of ends the pattern for where we are with Jeanette. But we know to carry this pattern on that we're going to skip 2 threads and then come so from the end of this, we want to come over 1, 2, and then come down 1, 2, 3 to start. No, that was weird. Let's just try it. And then you're going to cover, yeah, 2. That's right. Sorry. Had to look at the pattern. So that should make us right. Let's go up here and count and see if that's how it worked. Okay. So we had this little compensating stitch, and we came over 1, 2, and then we came down 3. I'm going to have to use my needle to count that. 1, this is where we were. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we need to come down one more thread. This is where you may want to just start doing your other ribbons and weaving them in. So what I'm doing here is making sure that for each leg, I'm coming down 1. So there's one leg, that's going to be a compensating that joins right there. And I have to come down 1 more. This will be a full stitch all by itself of the other color. And then if I come down and over 1 more, that keeps me in the same line up as this, and I'm going to go up 2. Okay. And where does that put me here? So if we say that this is the end of our line, then we just need to come down 1, 2 more. So let's try that. And then we are going to test what we just did. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1 more thread should make us horizontally in the same row as that one, and it does. Okay, that's where we want to end so that we keep everything even. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I think that might be right, but I'm going to leave this thread dangling. I'm going to go back to my red thread, and I'm going to work this one. So I'll be right back. Okay, So I did something to try to help us. I ran a little basting thread through the row on the bottom and the top that will be the end of this section, just since, you know, we're going to try to contain an iron to this section, so that we know where to stop and start, because we're going to have to go beyond the pattern in the book to be able to finish filling this in, which is a good experience. But it is easier if you know where to stop and start. So that's what this little thread is. I did not count, you know, the threads. It doesn't matter. It's just showing you what row to stop at. So I have rethreaded with my red thread. I put another away knot in it, and I'm going to do something different here. I'm going to start, let's see, I'm going to put it over here, because I'm going to come down on this one just to see where we are. So I'm going to start right here and kind of work down so that I know where we are. Okay, so on that 2-thread stitch, we should have one that has 4 threads underneath it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and I know that because I'm looking at this one. Okay, that one has 4 underneath it. And so that's how I know that. So I'm going to count up 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the next thread down is a full 4. So it starts down a thread and it should end inside that one. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it does, it meets up. And now we're down to compensating. This one's going to be a whole stitch, but the rest will be compensating because we're right up against this basting row. Now don't pierce that thread and don't pull it out yet because you're going to need it. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so you end one thread below that. So you're going to continue to start in the same border row, because that's, I'm catching my thread on the back that I left dangling, because that's where you have to stop. So you're doing compensating stitches, and this one's going to end one thread down. Again, you start in that border row, and it ends one thread down, so that one covers 2, and then this one just covers 1. So that worked. That's good. Now I am going to I'm gonna have a rat's nest on the back if I'm not careful. Leaving those dangling threads is not smart. Okay, so I'm going to come back up here and work this way. And you can run yours back underneath if you're doing it this way. But, you know, if you follow what we said, you shouldn't have to check it the way I am. You should be right, I think. We'll see. Okay, so this one should be a... Try to get this a little bit tighter. Got a little discombobulated there on the back. This one should be a full 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. It should be kind of a standalone all by itself there. And it is. And then the next one would start 1 thread up from this little guy. And it would also be full 4 threads. Cover full 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I think our compensating before is perfect. That looks perfect to me. So you might have to go back and watch what we did, but we basically counted our threads till we got to where we made sure that this one was in line. And we'll have to continue to do that on the downside coming across as we fill this pattern in. So we'll have a chance to do it again. So I'm going to finish this thread going up, and I'm going to fill in some of the others. I'll be back. Hi, so I did finish this little practice session. I guess my tips for you would be, A, make sure you're looking at your pattern, and B, you know, think about the rhythm that you're getting in your head. You do have patterns that repeat in here. So, for example, you know, this run's always the same as this. And so they're the same. You will get confused if you try to do, I think, just one color. I think you'll have to do, you know, a row or two of one color and then come back and do the other color coming down and then come back and do the more weaving and then the other color. That's what I found worked best for me. And as I mentioned, I did get a pattern going. I, you know, just kind of followed the pattern to fill in where Jeanette's ended. And I'm very happy with it. I think it's gorgeous. It's really pretty. Let me show you the other one that I did. Okay, so this is my other version. I'm kind of covering up the next lesson or two because I did stitch ahead a little bit. But this is what I did with it. So I used a different set of threads. These on this side are the flower thread. And then over here, I used some cotton floss, and I used 2 strands, and it was an over-dyed floss. And then on this one also, I went back and I filled in these little center parts, but instead of using beads, I did a tiny little eyelet over 2 on every other, you know, kind of diagonal, diagonal. I don't think it's a column or a row. And then on the opposite one, the next one, the other one, I did a Smyrna cross. And I think it's really pretty. To me, it looks a little bit Elizabethan, and it looks like something that you could easily decorate, you know, a casket with, which is a box, or, you know, if you had like a basket and you wanted to make a little surround for the outside or the inside of the basket, just around the outside circular portion or inside circular portion, this will be really beautiful. It will give it a really interesting kind of 17th century look, I think. So I enjoyed it. I did have to frog a little bit. I did have to pay attention to where the patterns were, but I actually got it going on this one and enjoyed it. And so I would suggest that, you know, if you have to pull out a little bit, don't let that get you down. Just, you know, kind of pay attention to your patterns and your over-unders. And, you know, just the part where I really had to pay attention is where the intersections were. And to be quite honest, I found it easier to start in the intersections. So once I got 1 or 2 rows in there, according to the pattern in the book, I went back and I actually started the next rows, no matter whether they were, you know, going up or down. I found an intersection with one that I had already done, and that's why I started. And I worked one way, and then I worked the other way. That, for me, worked better. And in the end, I really did not pay attention to always bottom to top. On this one, I did more bottom to top, but in actuality, I kind of flipped back and forth just to get my counting right. And, you know, for something decorative, I would say it doesn't really matter too much if you're not going to see the back, and if it's not going to get a lot of wear. I wouldn't really worry about that. Just make sure that when you're doing something like this, where you're doing a pulled work and you've got a little hole in it, like an eyelet, that you don't cross over that eyelet portion. You want those to be open. So, yeah, I think that would be my biggest tip. You know, get a couple rows going according to the pattern in the book. Come back and start with the intersections. And, you know, do another couple rows in that color that whichever one you start with, and then come back and pick up another couple, I'm saying rows, diagonals, in the opposite color. Start in the intersection and work your way out. Don't worry so much about up or down, because I found it easier to count going from bottom to top in some areas and top to bottom in other areas. So I encourage you to hang with it. I think this one was the hardest one that I've had to do. I think that for some of you, it won't be. And it just depends on how your mind picks up patterns. And I think that's the fun thing about this. For some of you, this will be super crazy easy, and you'll be like, Kim, what were you struggling with? And for others of you, you'll be like, oh, gosh, Kim, I got you. And so, you know, just don't quit. You know, pull it out if you need to, start again. Find your spot in the intersections. That's your good starting point. Once you get a couple of them laid out correctly, they're going to be your starting point. The other place I struggled a little bit is on this bottom part, the ending point, because that's not really reflected in the pattern. And so the way I did mine, and this will make sense when you do it, I picked a color, and that color, which for me was this coral or reddish color, I took it all the way to the top, all the way across. You see this little one stitch that goes just over one thread. So basically, when I was doing my compensating across the top, I made this one be the lead. And so I made sure that I compensated all the way as far as I could with that one. And then I came back and I filled in with the green. On the bottom, I did it the other way. And you can see I kind of fudged right here because I messed up. And I had the red one come all the way down, and I went back over top of it with green. And if you look right there, you can see the red peeking out. And, you know, it's fine for me. This is a practice piece. But, you know, I could have went back and pulled it out had I not started using that thread somewhere else, and I didn't want to pull it out. So I should have done a better job covering it up, but it's a good illustration point. So that's one that I messed up, and I brought the red all the way down, and I had to go back over it with the green. So I kind of picked the opposite colors, and this is just for the compensating on the very top edge. And then, you know, coming in here a little bit, I tried to start over here one time, and I tried to just count over from here to here and start, and that just did not work often. I was able to do it over here a couple of times, but for me, I found that it was much easier if I had started in the intersection and went up or down and then came back and picked up the rest of it, and you might find the same thing. So I hope you enjoyed that. We are coming right back with the next lesson. You can see I've already got my fun stitching part of it done over here, and I'll go through the actual practice piece with you guys. Take your time with it. Enjoy it. It's beautiful. You can see what you can do with it. You can do so many other things with it too. You could put beads in there, whatever you want to do. It's just a really beautiful, fun piece. But I was surprised, at how beautiful this looked. To me, it looked like Christmas wrapping. And it really kind of woven ribbon. And then once I put these little patterns in here, which were super easy, sprint crosses and eyelets, it started to look like something, you know, from the 1600s, 1700s. So, and it was very lovely, I thought. So I may actually use that to do a pattern on an inside of a box that I have, or a basket. So thank you for joining us. I hope you're enjoying this, and I will see you back for the next lesson. Thanks. Bye.